Welcome! Today, we're going to dive into some seriously powerful tools for your emotional well-being. And the best part? You can start using them right away. These aren't just complex theories. They're practical, hands-on techniques designed to create real, lasting change in your life.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever felt that way? You know, just completely stuck? Maybe it's a cycle of stress or a craving that just won't quit, or an anxious thought that plays on a loop in your head. It's that feeling where you know you want to change, but you just can't figure out how to get there.
Well, what if I told you there's a simple method out there that's kind of like emotional first aid? A technique that puts the power to shift how you feel directly into your own hands exactly when you need it most. No complex analysis, just immediate practical help.
All right, so let's jump into our first tool. It's a self-help method called Emotional Freedom Techniques, but pretty much everyone just calls it EFT tapping. Think of it as your personal go-to for getting some relief right in the moment.
So what is it exactly? Well, tapping is this really cool blend of modern psychology and ancient Chinese acupressure. The idea is actually pretty simple. You gently tap on specific points on your body while you focus on whatever's bothering you, a bad feeling, a stressful thought, a memory. And what this does is it sends a calming signal straight to your brain, helping to dial down that fight-or-flight response.
And what's amazing is just how easy it is to do on your own. First, you just pick one specific problem. Let's say this anxiety about my presentation. Then you rate how intense it feels, from 0 to 10. Next comes the setup, where you tap the side of your hand and say something like, "Even though I have this anxiety, I deeply and completely accept myself." After that, you tap through a simple sequence of points on your face and upper body. And when you're done, you take a breath and rate the feeling again. Seriously, most people are blown away when they see how much that number drops.
And you can use it for so many things. I mean, it's great for everyday stress and anxiety for sure, but it's also used for things like chronic pain, intense phobias, and even addictive cravings for food or cigarettes. It's a tool people use to help manage symptoms of depression and PTSD, and even to help athletes get over performance jitters. It's an incredibly versatile tool to have in your back pocket.
Now, tapping is a fantastic self-help tool, no doubt about it. But what happens when you're up against those deeper, more tangled patterns that you just can't seem to shake? Well, that's where trained practitioners like Daniel Sontag bring in a kind of secret ingredient, a precision tool that can totally transform the whole process.
And that ingredient is something called clean language. It actually started back in the 80s with a therapist named David Grove. He noticed that his clients, especially trauma survivors, often spoke in metaphors. So he developed this unique way of asking questions to explore their inner world without accidentally putting his own ideas into their heads. Over the years, it's been refined and is now paired with EFT by advanced practitioners to create this incredibly respectful and powerful way to create change.
So what is clean language? At its heart, it's a way of communicating with very specific, non-leading questions. The whole goal is to stay inside the other person's world. You honor their exact words, their metaphors, their way of seeing things. The practitioner doesn't try to interpret or suggest anything. They just act as a guide to help the client discover their own answers.
This quote from Philip Davis just nails it. Clean language makes the client come up with the words. It completely flips the script. Instead of the practitioner trying to figure out what to say, it creates this space where the client's own wisdom can just bubble up to the surface. The solutions, the insights, it all comes from you.
Okay, this is where you can really see the difference. A standard, well-meaning question might be, does that stuck feeling make you feel trapped? But wait, see what happened? The word trapped came from the therapist, not the client. A clean question is totally different. If you say, I feel stuck, the practitioner would ask, and what kind of stuck is that stuck? This tiny shift is huge. It keeps the focus entirely on your experience, because your stuck might be like quicksand, while someone else's is like being in a maze. And each of those metaphors holds a completely different key to getting free.
Okay, so we've got these two really powerful approaches, doing tapping on your own and working with a certified practitioner who uses a method like CleanEFT. So how do you know which one is the right fit for you? Well, here's the key thing to remember. They both have their place, and they're both incredibly valuable. DIY tapping is fantastic for that emotional first aid. You know, managing that spike of stress before a big meeting or knocking out a sudden craving. But when you're dealing with the heavy stuff, chronic issues, complex trauma, or that really deep feeling of being stuck that you just can't shake, that's when working with an advanced practitioner can be a game changer. They use the precision of clean language to help you find the root causes, the patterns you might not even know are there.
Now, I know this all sounds really interesting, but you might be thinking, does it actually work? So let's take a look at the science, because there's a growing mountain of research that backs all of this up. Let's start with a really cool study from 2024. It looked at a therapy called holographic memory resolution, or HMR, which uses the same client-led principles as CleanEFT. The study focused on adults who were dealing with chronic pain, and a lot of them also had high levels of trauma.
And the results, they were pretty remarkable. Just look at this chart. After only 4 sessions, the average anxiety scores were nearly cut in half, dropping from 9.4 down to 4.9. And depression scores saw a huge reduction too, going from an average of 10.9 all the way down to 6.9. That's a massive shift in a really short time.
And this is what I find really fascinating: the impact it had on people's physical symptoms. The average somatic symptom burden, which is basically the physical toll of all that emotional stress, it dropped from a very high level of 14.9 down to a medium burden of 8.3. It's such a clear example of that powerful mind-body connection.
And the research on EFT tapping itself is just as strong. A major 2023 review found it's incredibly effective for reducing PTSD symptoms. Other studies show it significantly reduces pain and depression for cancer patients. It lowers stress hormones in elite athletes. It helps university students sleep better. It even helps people with rheumatoid arthritis overcome their fear of movement. I mean, the evidence just keeps piling up. So after looking at all of this, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all actually mean for you in your life right now? Well, it means you have some real, powerful options for taking control of your emotional health.
You know, when you boil it all down, it's really about this. EFT tapping gives you a practical, powerful tool you can use anytime, anywhere for that immediate emotional first aid. And for those deeper, stickier patterns, the precision of clean language, when used by a skilled practitioner, offers this incredibly gentle and respectful path to discovering your own inner wisdom and creating change that really lasts. It's a whole toolkit for well-being.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a world that is always shouting at us, telling us how we should think and what we should feel, maybe the most revolutionary thing you can do is just listen to yourself. What could you discover? What could you change if you truly, truly listened to your own words?